The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest structure ever built by any species in the known universe. Its walls rose so high that clouds formed near the ceiling. Light came from floating crystals that had burned for 10,000 years without rest. Every surface was covered in gold and silver metals brought from 100 different worlds. This was a place built to make visitors feel small. And it worked. Ambassador Park stood at the center of the hall. He was a man of 50 years with gray hair and calm eyes. Behind him stood his delegation of 12 humans. They wore simple black suits, no gold, no metals, nothing that sparkled or shined. Compared to the aliens around them, they looked like shadows in a room full of stars. The council sat in a half-circle above them. There were 20 seats, each one holding a representative from the most powerful species in the galaxy. They were there, their blue skin glowing softly in the light. They sat in their armored shells, clicking their claws with impatience. They floated in tanks of green liquid, their tentacles pressing against the glass. And many others, each more strange and powerful than the last. High Counselor sat at the center. He was a tall and thin with eyes that held no warmth. His voice echoed through the hall when he spoke. "You may present your request, human." Stepped forward. His heart beat fast, but his face showed nothing. He had practiced this moment for 3 years, every word, every pause, every gesture. "High Counselor," began, "members of the Galactic Council, I come before you as the voice of Earth and all humanity. For 50 years we have watched your ships cross our skis. We have listened to your transmissions. We have learned your languages and studied your histories. And now we ask only one thing." He paused. "We ask to join you. Not as equals, we know we are young, but as members, as partners, as friends." Silence filled the hall. Then came a sound that had feared but expected. Laughter. It started with their clicks turning into a harsh rhythm that sounded like stones hitting metal. Then they joined, bubbles rising fast in their tanks. Even they smiled, though their smiles held no joy. High Counselor raised one long hand, and the laughter slowly died. "Friends," repeated the word like it tasted strange in his mouth. "Tell me, Ambassador Park, what does humanity offer? What do you bring to this council?" Had prepared for this question. "We offer our creativity, our determination, our ability to adapt and survive. We." "Your creativity," interrupted. "You have been building machines for less than 300 years. They have created art for 30,000 years. Your creativity is the creativity of children drawing with sticks and mud." A counselor leaned forward. His name was, and his shell was covered in battle scars. "Your determination. Humans live for what, 80 years? 90. I have armor older than your entire civilization. What can you determine in such a short life?" The representative spoke through a translator device. "Your ability to adapt. You cannot breathe underwater, you cannot survive in vacuum, you cannot see in the dark, you are soft, you are weak, you adapt to nothing." Felt his hands shake, not from fear, from anger, but he kept his voice steady. "We have come far in a short time. Give us a chance and we will prove." "Prove what?" asked. "Ambassador, look around you. Every species in this room has conquered stars. We have built empires that span thousands of worlds. We have fought wars that lasted longer than human history. We have created wonders that your people cannot even imagine." He leaned forward. "And what have humans done? You fight each other over patches of dirt. You poison your own air. You cannot even leave your single planet without help from our discarded technology. You found a ship crashed on your moon, and that is the only reason you stand here today." This was true. Humans had found an ancient vessel in the year 2089. They had studied it and built their first real starships from its designs. Without that discovery, Earth would still be looking at the stars and dreaming. "We learned from that ship," said. "We improved on it, we." "You," said. "Like children copying words they do not understand. This is not creation. This is not progress. This is imitation. and the council has no place for imitators. Another counselor spoke. She was from a species called and her skin was like living metal. I have a question for the human. Your ships can travel at what speed? Point 3 light speed, answered. More laughter. Point 3, the repeated. My personal shuttle travels at point 9. The slowest cargo ship in my fleet moves faster than your fastest warship. How do you plan to contribute to the council when you cannot even keep up with us? We would learn, said. We would grow, You would be a burden, said flatly. Every young species says the same things. Give us a chance. We will learn, we will prove ourselves, and every time they are wrong, they slow us down. They start conflicts they cannot finish. They make demands they have not earned the right to make. He stood from his seat. The council has decided. Humanity is not ready for membership. Perhaps in 1,000 years, if you survive that long, you may ask again. Felt something cold settle in his chest. 1,000 years. High Counselor, surely there is some other way, some test we can take, some task we can complete to prove. There is no test, said. There is no task, there is only time, and you do not have enough of it. He gestured toward a door at the far end of the hall. Your species is assigned to the Outer Rim, sectors 7 through 12. These are the territories beyond our borders where the Council does not govern. You may do as you wish there, build, grow, die. It matters not to us. Understood. The Outer Rim was where the Council sent species they wanted to forget. The territories were empty, dangerous, and far from any trade routes. Most species sent their faded away within a few generations. Some were destroyed by the void swarms that came from dark space. Others simply lost hope and stopped trying. You are sending us to die, said quietly. Smiled. It was the coldest smile had ever seen. We are sending you to your place. What you do with it is your choice. The other humans in the delegation looked at. Some had tears in their eyes. Others looked angry. A young woman named clenched her fists so hard her knuckles turned white. A man named Lee stared at the floor, his shoulders heavy with defeat. But did not cry, he did not shout, he simply nodded. I understand, he said. We will leave now. He turned and began walking toward the door. His delegation followed in silence. Their footsteps echoed in the massive hall. Behind them, the council members began talking among themselves. They had already forgotten about the humans. There were more important matters to discuss. Trade agreements, border disputes, the usual business of running a galaxy. The clicked his claws together. Another young species sent to the rim. How many is that this cycle? 3, the woman said. Though the humans lasted longer than most, usually they start crying within the first minute. Did you see their ships? I asked. I have seen better designs in a children's museum. Laughter again, easy, careless laughter. Watched the humans leave. There was something in the way the ambassador walked that bothered him, something in those calm eyes. Most species begged when they were rejected. They pleaded for another chance. They made promises they could never keep. But the human had simply said, I understand. Shook his head. It did not matter. In 100 years, the humans would be forgotten. In 200, there would be nothing left of them but empty stations and rusting ships. The Outer Rim consumed all who were sent there. This was the way of the galaxy. The strong survived. The weak faded away. At the door stopped. He turned back one last time and looked at the council. Every face showed amusement or boredom. No one respected them. No one feared them. To the galaxy, humans were nothing, less than nothing. Spoke one last time. His voice was soft, but somehow it carried across the entire hall. We will remember this day. Then he walked out. The doors closed behind the human delegation. The council returned to their discussions. Within an hour, no one mentioned the humans at all. They were already forgotten. Outside in the cold corridor, Grab's arm. Ambassador, what do we do now? They have sent us to die in the rim. There is nothing out there but empty space and monsters. Looked at her, then he looked at the others. All 11 of them waited for his answer. They think they know what we are, said. They think we are weak. They think we are stupid. They think we will fade away like all the others. He started walking again. Let them think that. Let them forget about us. Let them laugh and joke and believe they are safe. Hurried to catch up. But what can we do? They are right about our technology. Our ships are slow. Our weapons are weak. We cannot fight them. We will not fight them, said. Not yet. Not for a long time, but we will build. We will learn. We will grow. And when the day comes that they need us, and that day will come, we will be ready. How can you be sure they will need us? Asked. Smiled. It was a small smile, but it held something that had been missing from his face since they entered the council hall. Hoping. Because the universe is larger than they know, he said, and darker than they imagine, and one day something will come from that darkness, something they cannot defeat alone. He reached their ship and placed his hand on its hull. It was old. It was slow. It was built from technology. But it was theirs. When that day comes, said, we will be there, and then we will see who laughs. The ship's doors opened. The humans boarded in silence. Minutes later, the vessel lifted off and flew away from the council station. It grew smaller and smaller until it was just a dot of light. Then it was gone. In the great hall, the council continued their meeting. No one noticed the small ship leaving. No one cared. They had no idea what was coming. 10 cycles passed in the darkness of the outer rim. A cycle was what the council called a standard galactic year. It was longer than an Earth year by about 3 months. 10 cycles was enough time for empires to rise and fall. It was enough time for wars to start and end. It was enough time for the council to forget completely about the small species they had sent to die. But humans did not die. In Sector 9 of the Outer Rim, a station floated in the empty space between dead stars. It was called Haven. 10 years ago, it had been a single platform barely large enough to hold 100 people. Now it was a city. Haven stretched across 50 kilometers of space. Its rings connected to its rings, which connected to more rings, all spinning slowly to create gravity. Lights glowed from 10,000 windows. Ships flew in and out of its docks every hour, and at its center, in a room full of screens and machines, stood Chief Engineer. Was 32 years old with short black hair and oil stains on her fingers. She had not slept in 3 days. She did not plan to sleep for another 2. There was too much work to do. Report, she said without looking up from her screen. Her assistant, a young man named, rushed to her side with a tablet. Ring 7 is complete. Population capacity is now at 200,000. Ring 8 will be finished in 4 months. Too slow, said. The new colonists arrive in 2 months. We need Ring 8 ready. But the materials. Find more materials. Strip the asteroid belt in Sector 8 if you have to. I do not care how you do it, just get it done. Nodded and hurried away. He had learned not to argue with. She was always right, and even when she was wrong, she found a way to make it work. Turned back to her screen. It showed a map of all 12 sectors assigned to humanity. Each sector was marked with dots representing human settlements. 10 years ago, there had been 7 dots. Now there were 342. 342 stations, outposts, colonies, and bases, all built in secret, all hidden from the council's eyes. Not that the council was looking. They had stopped sending patrol ships to the outer rim 50 years ago. There was nothing there worth protecting, nothing there worth noticing. That was exactly what humanity wanted. A door opened behind. She turned to see a familiar face. Ambassador Park walked in, older now with more gray in his hair but with the same calm eyes. He said, "How goes the work?" "Too slow and too fast at the same time," she answered. "We are growing faster than we can build, but building slower than we need to." Smiled, that sounds about right. May I see the new drive? Nodded and led him through a series of corridors. They passed workers carrying equipment, scientists arguing over calculations, and children running between their parents' legs. Haven was alive in a way that no council station could match. It was messy. It was loud. It was human. They reached a large hangar at the edge of the station. Inside sat a ship unlike any human had built before. It was sleek and black, shaped like an arrow ready to fly. Its hull was covered in strange patterns that seemed to shift when you looked at them too long. "The Mark 7, said with pride in her voice. "Named it myself." Humble as always, said. "I designed it, I get to name it." She walked up to the ship and touched its hull, .8 light speed, fully tested, ready for mass production. His eyes widened. .8, the council told us we would never pass .5. The council was wrong about many things. Pulled up a hologram from her tablet. It showed the engine design. We did not just copy their technology anymore. We studied it. We understood it. And then we made it better. How long until we can put these engines in all our ships? 2 years if we rush. 3 if we do it right. Do it right, said. We cannot afford mistakes. In another part of the rim, in Sector 11, a different kind of work was happening. Commander O stood on the bridge of the warship Resolve. He was 40 years old with a scar across his jaw and hands that had seen both construction and combat. Around him, his crew of 500 worked at their stations. Again, said. The tactical officer, Lieutenant Shin Myra, nodded. Simulation starting. Enemy fleet, 50 cruisers. Engagement distance, 200,000 kilometers. On the main screen, holographic ships appeared. The cruisers were beautiful, long and curved like silver fish swimming through space. They were also deadly. Each one carried enough weapons to destroy a small moon. The Resolve was alone against them. All guns fire, ordered. The simulation played out. The Resolve moved in patterns that looked random but were actually carefully planned. It dodged and weaved. It fired and retreated. One by one, the ships fell. When it was over, only the Resolve remained. Time asked. 14 minutes, 32 seconds, Myra reported. 17% faster than last week. Not fast enough. The real will not fight like simulations. They will adapt. They will surprise us. We must be faster. Myra hesitated. Commander, the crew is tired. We have been running drills for 3 days straight. Perhaps. The do not get tired, interrupted. The do not take breaks. If we want to survive against them, we must be better than them in every way. He looked at his crew. They were exhausted. He could see it in their eyes in the way they slouched at their stations. But he also saw something else. Determination, pride, the knowledge that they were doing something important. 1 more hour, said, his voice softer now. 1 more hour and then you all get a full day of rest. I promise. The crew straightened. They returned to their work with new energy. Turned back to the screen. 50 cruisers. In the old days, that fleet could have destroyed every human ship in existence. Now, 1 human warship could defeat them all. But 1 ship was not enough. They needed hundreds, thousands. And they were building them. Back on Haven, met with his advisors in a secure room. There were 6 of them, each representing a different part of human society. Was there for engineering, appeared on a screen from his ship. Others represented science, medicine, diplomacy, and intelligence. Report from each sector, said. The intelligence advisor, a woman named, spoke first. The council has not looked toward the rim in 8 cycles. Their last patrol came within 50 light years of Sector 12, but they turned back after finding nothing of interest. They still think we are dead, asked. They do not think of us at all. To them, we are a footnote in history, a failed species that disappeared into the darkness. Good, let them keep thinking that. Looked at the science advisor. What about the void swarms? The science advisor, an old man named Han, pulled up images on the central screen. They showed dark shapes moving through space, massive creatures that looked like clouds of black smoke with thousands of hungry eyes. "They are getting closer," said. "Our sensors have detected 3 major swarms in the deep void beyond the rim. They are moving slowly, but they are moving toward Council space." "How long until they reach the Council?" "At their current speed, 15 to 20 cycles." Nodded. This was what he had predicted. The void swarms were ancient horrors that came from the spaces between galaxies. They fed on life, on energy, on everything. The Council knew about them but did nothing. They believed their fleets were strong enough to stop any threat. They were wrong. "And our weapons?" asked. "Can we fight them?" The medical advisor, a woman named Song, answered. "We have studied their biology from the creatures that drifted into the rim. They are vulnerable to focused energy weapons at specific frequencies. The Council's standard weapons will barely scratch them, but ours—" She smiled. "Ours will burn them." Leaned back in his chair. "So we have the technology, we have the ships, we have the soldiers. What do we not have?" Answered. "Time. We need at least 5 more cycles to reach full production, if the swarms come early." "They will not come early," said from his screen. "The void moves slowly, it always has. We will be ready." Looked at each advisor in turn. These were the best minds humanity had. They had worked in secret for 10 years, building something the Council could never imagine, and they had succeeded beyond all expectations. But the true test was still coming. "In 5 cycles," said, "the void swarms will enter Council space. The Council will fight them. They will fail. And then they will look to the outer rim, expecting to find nothing but empty stations and bones." He stood. "Instead, they will find us, and we will make them an offer they cannot refuse." Later that night stood alone at an observation window. Haven's rings turned slowly beneath him. Beyond them, the stars burned cold and distant. A young woman approached. It was the same diplomat who had stood beside him in the council hall 10 years ago. She was older now, stronger, with the confidence of someone who had helped build a new world. "Ambassador," she said, "you should rest." "I am too old to rest," said. "Besides, I enjoy watching the station. Every light represents a person who refused to give up. Every ship represents a dream that the council said was impossible." Stood beside him. "Do you ever regret it, leaving the council like that, not fighting harder?" Shook his head. "Fighting would have achieved nothing. They were not ready to see us as equals. They needed time to learn, and we needed time to grow. And now? Now we wait. A few more cycles, a few more ships, a few more soldiers, and then—" He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Smiled. "The council has no idea what we have become." "No," agreed. "They think we are dead. They think the rim swallowed us like it swallowed all the others. They sit in their great hall, laughing at species they consider weak, never knowing that the weakest of all is now the strongest." He placed his hand on the window. "Let them laugh, let them forget. When the darkness comes, they will remember, and then they will understand." In the space around Haven, ships continued their work. Cargo vessels carried materials from asteroids. Construction crews built new rings for new homes. Warships practiced formations that would one day save the galaxy. And in the great hall of the council, no one spoke of humans at all. 10 cycles had passed. 5 more remained. The darkness was coming, and humanity was ready. The first world to fall was called Prime. It was a colony of 8 billion souls. Beautiful cities floated on clouds of purple gas. Towers of crystal caught the light of 3 suns. Gardens stretched across continents, filled with flowers that sang when the wind blew. It was considered one of the wonders of the galaxy. The void swarm reached it on a quiet morning. Sensors detected the threat too late, By the time the alarm sounded, the sky was already dark. Black clouds poured down from space, blocking out the suns. They were not really clouds. They were creatures, billions of them, each one small as a fist but hungry beyond measure. The planetary defense fleet launched within minutes. 50 warships, the best they had. Their weapons lit up the darkness with beams of white fire. They killed millions of the void creatures. It did not matter. For every creature that died, 10 more took its place. The swarm was endless. It poured from the deep void like water from a broken dam. It covered the ships, eating through their hulls. It fell upon the cities, consuming everything it touched. The last transmission from Prime came 6 hours after the attack began. A young child stood in the ruins of her home, crying for her mother. Behind her, the darkness moved closer. Then the signal cut out. 8 billion lives, gone in half a day. The council received the news while in session. High Counselor read the report 3 times before he could believe it. "This cannot be accurate," he said. "Our fleets are the finest in the galaxy. They cannot be destroyed so easily." He clicked his claws nervously. "The report comes from multiple sources. Prime is gone. The swarm is moving toward the next system." "Then send more ships," ordered. "Send the entire fleet if necessary. Stop this swarm before it spreads further." The military commander, a tall woman named Lady, stood from her seat. "With respect, High Counselor, I have already mobilized our forces. 200 ships are on their way to intercept the swarm. They will." Her words were cut off by an aide running into the hall. The aide's face was pale with terror. "Lady," the aide gasped, "the interception fleet, they are gone." "Gone? What do you mean gone?" "Destroyed, all 200 ships. The swarm consumed them in less than an hour." Silence fell over the council. 200 ships. It was the largest fleet they had sent into battle in 1,000 years, and it had been destroyed like it was nothing. His hands trembled. "This is not possible. Our weapons." "Our weapons do not work," Lady said. Her voice was hollow. "The standard energy frequencies barely harm the creatures. They absorb our fire. They feed on it. We are making them stronger." A counselor bubbled frantically in her tank. "Then find new weapons. Develop new technology. You have scientists, do you not?" "That will take years," Lady replied. "We do not have years. At its current speed, the swarm will reach the next colony in 3 days. The core worlds in 20. 20 days. The representative's metal skin flickered with panic. "Maya's in the core. My family is there. We must do something." Slammed his armored fist against his desk. "I will send the fleet. My warriors do not fear death. We will." "Your warriors will die like everyone else," Lady interrupted. "I am sorry, Counselor, but this is not a battle we can win with courage alone. The swarm is too large, too hungry, too fast." Stared at the holographic map in the center of the hall. It showed council space, thousands of worlds, trillions of lives, all connected by trade routes and defense networks. And moving toward it from the edge was a dark cloud that grew larger with each passing hour. "What about allies?" asked desperately. "Surely other species will help us, the outer colonies, the independent worlds." "We have no allies," they said bitterly. "We spent 10,000 years telling everyone they were beneath us. We sent the weak to die in the rim. We laughed at species who asked for our help. Now they watch us burn and they feel nothing but satisfaction." "We could offer them membership," suggested. "Full membership, no conditions. Surely that would." "It is too late for that," said. "The outer worlds have already closed their borders. They are hopping the swarm will eat us and leave them alone." The council sat in silence. For the first time in its history, the great powers of the galaxy had no answer, no plan, no hope. Over the next 15 days, the void swarm consumed everything in its path. Colony after colony fell. Fleets were destroyed as quickly as they could be assembled. Refugees fled in every direction, only to find that no one would accept them. The species that had once ruled the galaxy were now homeless and desperate. Commander watched the chaos from the bridge of the Resolve. His ship sat at the edge of Sector 12, just inside the border of the Outer Rim. Human scouts had been monitoring the swarm since it first appeared. They knew exactly how it moved, where it was going, and what it would do next. Report said. Lieutenant Shin Myra checked her screens. The swarm has taken 18 worlds. Current position is 30 light-years from the Council Station. At their current speed, they will reach the capital in 5 days. Casualties. Myra hesitated. Our estimates say 42 billion, but that number grows every hour. Closed his eyes. 42 billion lives. It was a number too large to understand. Entire civilizations had been erased. Species that had existed for were now extinct. And yet he felt no satisfaction, no joy in seeing the Council suffer, only sadness at the waste of it all. Has the Council made any progress? He asked. No, sir. Their weapons remain ineffective. They have tried nuclear devices, antimatter bombs, even ramming their own ships into the swarm. Nothing works. A young officer spoke up from the back of the bridge. Commander, if I may ask, why are we just watching? We have weapons that can hurt the swarm. Why do we not help? Turned to face the officer. He was barely 20 years old, fresh from training. He still believed that doing the right thing was simple. We are not just watching, said. We are waiting. There is a difference. Waiting for what, sir? For the right moment. Looked back at the screen. If we help now, we will be seen as opportunists, vultures picking at a wounded beast. The Council will accept our help, but they will hate us for it. They will never truly work with us. So we wait until it gets worse. We wait until they understand. Walk to the front of the bridge. Right now, the Council still believes they can solve this alone. They still believe they are the masters of the galaxy. That pride must break before they can accept what we offer. And how many will die while we wait? Did not answer. He did not have a good answer to give. On Haven Station, Ambassador faced the same question from his advisors. The Council is dying, said. Every day we wait, millions more are lost. We have the power to stop this. Why are we not using it? Because power alone is not enough, replied. When we save them, and we will save them, it must be on our terms. They must accept humanity as true partners, not as servants who happen to be useful. Intelligence advisor nodded slowly. The ambassador is right. Our scouts report that the Council has already contacted 3 other species, offering them membership in exchange for help. All 3 refused. Why? Asked. Because they do not trust the Council. They believe that once the crisis is over, the Council will return to its old ways. They will be dismissed, mocked, sent to the Rim like all the others. So they prefer to let billions die rather than risk being betrayed later. His voice was sharp with anger. Yes, said simply. That is how deep the Council's damage goes. They have made enemies of every species they ever met, and now those enemies are happy to watch them burn. Stood and walked to the window. Outside, the human fleet had gathered. 1,000 warships, each one carrying weapons designed specifically to fight the Void Swarm. They had trained for this moment for 15 years. They were ready. In 2 days, said, the swarm will reach the Council Station. 50 billion people live in that system. If we do nothing, they will all die. He turned to face his advisors. We are not going to do nothing, but we are also not going to repeat the mistakes of those who came before us. We will save the Council. We will defeat the swarm, but we will do it in a way that changes everything. What do you propose? Asked. Smiled. It was the same smile he had worn when he walked out of the Council Hall 15 years ago. We are going to make them ask us for help. 2 days later, the Void Swarm reached the Council Station. The Great Hall was filled with screaming. Councilors ran in every direction, pushing past each other in their panic. Outside, the darkness had blocked out the stars. The station's shields held for now, but everyone knew they would not last. High Counselor sat alone at his seat. His face was empty. His eyes saw nothing. He had failed. His people had failed. The galaxy was ending and there was nothing he could do. Approached him, the old warrior had lost his bluster. He looked tired, defeated. High Counselor said, "Our fleets are gone. Our weapons are useless. The shields will fall within the hour. Is there nothing we can do?" Looked up slowly. "We spent 10,000 years building an empire. We conquered stars. We shaped civilizations. We thought we were gods." He laughed bitterly. "And now we die, eaten by creatures we cannot even name. How fitting." Was about to respond when an alert sounded throughout the hall. A communication was coming through, on a frequency the Council had not used in 15 years. The frequency assigned to humans. A voice filled the hall. It was calm, steady, and familiar. "This is Ambassador Park of the Human Collective. We are aware of your situation. We have a fleet of 1,000 ships equipped with weapons capable of destroying the Void Swarm." Every counselor stopped moving. They stared at the speakers as if seeing ghosts. His voice continued, "We are prepared to save your station and drive back the swarm, but first, the High Counselor will answer one question." Stood slowly, his voice cracked when he spoke. "Ambassador Park, you are alive, you survived the Rim." "We did more than survive, High Counselor, but that is not important right now. Answer my question and we will help you." What is your question?" There was a pause, then spoke. 15 years ago I stood in your hall and asked for humanity to join the Council. You laughed at us. You sent us to die. You said we were weak, stupid, and worthless." His voice hardened. "Tell me, High Counselor, tell me and every species watching this transmission, were you wrong?" His legs trembled. Around him, his fellow counselors watched with wide eyes. The creatures of the swarm pressed against the shields, their hunger visible in every movement. "Were you wrong?" Such a simple question, such an impossible answer. Looked at the darkness outside. He looked at his people, crying and praying for salvation. He looked at his own reflection in the polished floor, an old man who had spent his life believing in the wrong things. Then he answered, "Yes, we were wrong about everything." The transmission went silent for a moment, then spoke one last time. "Thank you, High Counselor, help is on the way." And through the darkness, 1,000 points of light appeared. The human fleet emerged from the darkness like fire bursting through ice. 1,000 warships, each one a black arrow covered in glowing blue lines. They moved in perfect formation, spreading out to surround the Council station. Their engines burned bright against the void, and for the first time in weeks, the survivors inside the station saw something other than darkness. They saw hope. Commander O stood at the center of the Resolve's bridge. His crew worked around him with calm focus. No panic, no fear. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. "All ships report status," said. One by one, the fleet commanders checked in. Every ship was ready. Every weapon was charged. Every soldier was prepared to die for victory. "The swarm is surrounding the station," Lieutenant Shin Myra reported. "Estimated creature count, 300 billion. They are beginning to crack the shields. Time until breach. 20 minutes, maybe less." Nodded. "Then we have 20 minutes to win this battle." He opened a channel to the entire fleet. "This is Commander. For 15 years, we have prepared for this day. We built ships that no one believed we could build. We created weapons that no one believed would work. We trained until we were better than any force in the galaxy." He paused. "Today, we prove them right to doubt us. We prove them right to laugh at us. We prove them right to fear what they could not understand." His voice rose. "Today, the universe learns the truth about humanity. We are small. We are young. We live short lives on a small world in a forgotten corner of space, but we do not break, we do not run, and we never ever give up. He drew his sword, an old blade his grandfather had carried on Earth, passed down through generations. All ships engage. The human fleet surged forward. Inside the council station, every screen showed the battle unfolding. Counselors, refugees, and soldiers watched in silence as the small human ships plunged into the swarm. High Counselor stood at the main window. He had expected the humans to stay back, to fire from a safe distance. Instead, they flew straight into the heart of the darkness. "They are insane," he whispered. "They will be consumed like everyone else." But then the human weapons fired. Blue beams of light shot out from every ship. They were not like council weapons, not wide beams meant to cover large areas. These were focused, precise, tuned to a specific frequency that did not recognize. Where the blue light touched the swarm, creatures died. Not in ones or twos, but in millions. Entire sections of the darkness simply vanished, burned away like shadows before the sun. Lady grabbed arm. "How is this possible? Our scientists spent years trying to find a weapon that works. We tested every frequency, every energy type. Nothing worked." "Nothing worked for us," said slowly. "But the humans, they had 15 years. 15 years alone in the rim with nothing to do but prepare for this moment. They knew the swarm was coming. They predicted it, they planned for it. While we laughed at them, they were building an army to save us." His legs grew weak. He sat down heavily on the floor, suddenly unable to stand. "We called them weak," he said. "We called them stupid, we sent them to die." He looked up at the window, at the battle raging beyond. "And they came back to save us anyway." The battle was not easy. The swarm was vast beyond measure, and even human weapons could not kill them all. Ships were damaged. Soldiers were lost. For every section of darkness that was cleared, more creatures poured in from the void. But the humans did not retreat. Commander flew his ship through the heart of the swarm. The Resolve twisted and turned, dodging clouds of creatures while its guns blazed without rest. Around him, other ships did the same, their captains finding paths through the chaos. "Commander," Myra shouted, "the station shields are failing, we have 5 minutes." Looked at his tactical display. The swarm was thickest around the station's main shield generator. If he could clear that area, the shields would hold long enough for the rest of the fleet to finish the job. But the swarm there was too dense. No ship could survive flying through it. No ship except one. "All ships continue engaging the outer swarm," ordered. "Resolve will handle the shield generator." "Commander, that area is too dangerous. You will not survive." "Maybe not," gripped his sword, "but the station will, and that is what matters." He pushed the engines to full power. The Resolve shot forward, diving straight toward the thickest part of the darkness. Creatures slammed against the hull. Alarms screamed warnings. Systems failed one by one. The crew fought to keep the ship flying, but they were losing the battle. Then saw it, a small gap in the swarm, barely large enough for his ship to pass through. Beyond it was the shield generator, exposed and vulnerable. "All power to forward guns," ordered. "On my mark." The gap was closing. Creatures were filling it faster than his ship could fly. He had one chance. "Mark!" The Resolve's guns fired every weapon at once. A wall of blue light cut through the darkness. The gap widened just enough. The ship burst through, emerging into clear space right in front of the shield generator. Its guns continued firing, sweeping the area clean of creatures. The shield stabilized. The station was saved. But the Resolve was dying. "Hull breach on decks 3 through 7, Myra reported. "Engines at 20%. Weapons are offline." Looked at his crew. They were injured, exhausted, covered in blood and oil, but they were alive. "Good work," he said quietly. "Now get us out of here before the creatures regroup." The Resolve limped away from the station, its engine sputtering. Other human ships moved to protect it, forming a shield around their wounded commander. The battle continued for another hour. The human fleet pushed the swarm back kilometer by kilometer, clearing space around the station. Eventually, the creatures began to retreat, not because they were defeated, but because there were too few left to sustain an attack. The Void Swarm was not destroyed. It would reform in the deep void, gathering strength for another assault. But that assault would not come today, not tomorrow, not for many years. The galaxy had been given a second chance. When the last creature fled into the darkness, silence fell over the battlefield. Debris from destroyed ships, both human and council, floated through space. The lights of the surviving fleet blinked slowly in the void. Commander opened a channel to the council station. "This is Commander O of the human fleet. The Void Swarm has been driven back. Your station is secure." His voice was tired but strong. "Ambassador Park will arrive shortly to discuss terms for continued cooperation. I suggest you prepare your council chamber. There is much to discuss." He closed the channel without waiting for a response. 2 hours later, a single human shuttle landed in the council station's main dock. Ambassador Park stepped out, followed by a small delegation. They wore the same simple black suits they had worn 15 years ago. The dock was crowded with survivors and dozens of other species. They watched the humans with a mixture of awe, fear, and something that might have been respect. High Counselor approached. The old looked like he had aged 20 years in a single day. His robes were torn. His eyes were red from crying. He walked slowly as if carrying a great weight. Ambassador Park said, his voice cracked. "I do not know what to say. You saved us. After everything we did to you, after how we treated you, you came back and saved us." Looked at him for a long moment. Then he reached out and placed his hand on his shoulder. "You asked me 15 years ago what humanity offers. I told you we offer creativity, determination, and the ability to adapt. You did not believe me." He gestured at the stars outside. "I hope you believe me now." Lowered his head. "I believe you, I believe everything, but I do not understand. Why did you save us? We deserved to die. We were cruel, arrogant, and blind. We thought we were gods and we treated everyone else like insects." His expression softened. "Because revenge is easy. Hatred is simple. Any species can destroy its enemies. But building something new, something better, that takes real strength." He looked around at the survivors watching them. "Humanity chose not to be like you. We chose not to repeat your mistakes. When we saw the swarm coming, we could have let it consume you. We could have waited in the rim and laughed as your empires burned. Many of my people wanted exactly that. Why did you not? Because then we would have become what you were. And we did not spend 15 years building a new civilization just to become the thing we hated." Stepped forward. "Ambassador, the council chamber is prepared. They are waiting for us." Nodded and began walked beside him. "What do you want from us?" asked. "Name your terms. Whatever you ask, I will give it." "I do not want to take anything from you," said. "I want to build something with you, a new council. One where every species has a voice, not just the powerful ones. One where young civilizations are helped instead of mocked. One where we face the darkness together instead of alone." Stopped walking. "You want equality." More than that, turned to face him. "I want partnership, true partnership where we learn from each other and grow together. Humanity has much to offer, but we also have much to learn. The same is true for every species in this galaxy." Even the smiled slightly. "You are not as wise as you thought, but you are not as foolish as you acted either. Given a chance, I believe you can become something better." They reached the entrance to the council chamber. Inside, the remaining counselors waited in their seats. They looked broken, defeated, stripped of their pride. But they were alive, and that meant they could still change. paused at the door. "The old council is dead," he said. "What we build today will shape the galaxy for the next 10,000 years. Let us build something worth remembering." He walked through the doors, and a new era began. 5 years had passed since the Battle of the Council Station. The Great Hall looked different now. The golden walls remained, but new banners hung between them, flags representing every species in the galaxy, not just the powerful ones. The 20 seats of the old council had been replaced by 100 seats arranged in a full circle. No one sat higher than anyone else. No one looked down at visitors from above. Ambassador Park walked through the hall with slow, careful steps. He was an old man now, his hair fully white and his back slightly bent. But his eyes still held the same calm fire they had held 60 years ago when he first set foot in this chamber. Today was a special day. The new council was celebrating its 5th anniversary, and representatives from 300 species had gathered to mark the occasion. The hall was filled with sound, laughter, conversation, the clicking of claws and the bubbling of tanks. Walked beside. She had gray in her hair now too, but she was still as sharp as ever. "Nervous?" she asked. Smiled. "Why would I be nervous? I am just giving a short speech. I have given thousands of speeches. This one is different. This is the last one." Nodded slowly. He had announced his retirement 3 months ago. After this celebration, he would return to Earth, a planet he had not seen in 40 years. He would spend his remaining days in a small house by the sea, watching the waves and remembering all the things he had done. It was a good ending, better than he had ever expected. High Counselor approached them. The old moved slowly these days, his blue skin faded to pale gray. But he still came to every council meeting, still listened to every debate, still offered his wisdom when asked. Ambassador said, "A word before the ceremony." "Of course." They stepped aside while continued into the hall, looked at with an expression that had taken years to develop, respect. "I never properly thanked you," said. "Not just for saving us, for everything after, for showing us a better way. You thanked me many times." Words are not enough. Reached into his robe and pulled out a small object. It was a crystal glowing with soft blue light. "This is a memory stone. Every child receives one at birth. It holds the hopes and wishes of their parents." He pressed it into his hands. "This was mine, given to me 10,000 years ago by my mother. It holds her wish for me, that I would grow to be wise and kind and just." Looked at the crystal. "I cannot accept this. It is too precious." "You already have accepted it." Closed fingers around the stone. "You fulfilled my mother's wish better than I ever did. For 10,000 years I was a fool. I was cruel and arrogant. Then you showed me what wisdom truly means." His old eyes glistened. "Keep it, remember us, and when you sit by your sea on Earth, know that they will never forget what humanity did for us." Held the stone tightly. "Thank you, old friend." "No, thank you." They stood in silence for a moment, 2 old men who had once been enemies and had become something like family. Then straightened his robes. "Now go give your speech. The galaxy is waiting." The ceremony began an hour later. Every seat in the hall was filled. Screens throughout the station and across 1,000 worlds carried the broadcast. Billions of beings watched as the new council celebrated what it had become. Chief Engineer spoke first. She was old now too, her hair fully white, but her voice was still strong. 5 years ago we built something new," she said. "Not just stations and ships, but a new way of living together. We made mistakes. We argued. We sometimes wanted to give up. But we kept building, and today we see the results." She gestured at the hall. 300 species, 3,000 worlds, all working together, all sharing knowledge and resources, all treating each other as equals. She smiled. "Some said it was impossible. They said different species could never truly cooperate. They said old hatreds would always win. They were wrong." Commander O spoke next. He walked with a limp now, a souvenir from the battle of the Council Station, but he still carried his grandfather's sword at his side. I spent my life preparing for war, he said. I trained soldiers, I built weapons, I planned battles that I hoped would never happen, but the greatest victory of my life was not winning a fight, it was preventing one. He looked at the mixed crowd, sitting beside humans, sharing tables with. Before the Void Swarm, these species would have destroyed each other given the chance. Now they build together. They protect each other. They are willing to die for each other. His voice grew quiet. That is not a victory of weapons. It is a victory of hope, and it is the only kind of victory that truly matters. Other speakers followed, scientists who had developed new technologies by combining knowledge from different species, diplomats who had resolved conflicts that once seemed impossible, ordinary citizens who had found friends, and even families among beings they had once feared. And through it all, waited patiently for his turn. Finally approached the central platform. And now, the being who started all of this, the human who walked into this hall 60 years ago and asked for something no one believed was possible, ladies and others, Ambassador Park. The hall erupted in applause. Every species, every representative, every being rose to their feet. They clapped and clicked and bubbled and hummed, each one showing respect in their own way. Walked slowly to the center of the platform. He looked around at the faces watching him, faces of every color and shape, beings of every kind. Many he knew personally, others he had never met, but all of them were here because of choices made long ago. He waited for the applause to fade, then he spoke. 60 years ago, I stood in this hall and asked a question. I asked the Council to let humanity join the galaxy, to let us be part of something larger than ourselves. He smiled at the memory. They laughed at me. They called us weak and stupid and worthless. They sent us to die in the outer rim, certain that we would fade away like all the others. He paused. They were wrong about many things, but they were right about one. We were young. We were inexperienced. We did not understand how the galaxy worked. He looked at. What they did not understand was that being young is not always a weakness. Sometimes it is a strength. We had no traditions telling us what was impossible. We had no history of hatred weighing us down. We saw the galaxy fresh, like children seeing the ocean for the first time. He walked to the edge of the platform. And what we saw was possibility. We saw species that had been fighting for, never realizing that they had more in common than they had differences. We saw technology that could save lives instead of taking them. We saw a galaxy that was sick with fear and pride, waiting for someone to show it a better way. His voice grew stronger. We did not save the Council because we wanted revenge. We did not save them because we wanted power. We saved them because we believed in something so simple that the oldest species in the galaxy had forgotten it. He looked around the hall. We believe that everyone deserves a chance, not just the strong, not just the powerful, everyone. The species that have ruled for 10,000 years and the species that just discovered fire. The beings who look like us and the beings who look like nothing we have ever seen. He pointed at the flags hanging on the walls. 300 species. Every one of them matters. Every one of them has something to offer. Every one of them is part of this family we are building. He lowered his hand. I am old now. Soon I will go home to Earth and rest, but before I go, I want to share one last thought. The hall was completely silent. Even the stopped bubbling in their tanks. The Void Swarm is still out there. It is rebuilding. Someday it will return. And there are other threats too, things in the deep void that we cannot imagine, dangers that no species has ever faced. He smiled. But I am not afraid, because I know that when those threats come, we will face them together, not as separate species, each one looking out for itself, but as one galaxy, one people, one family. He raised his hand one last time. Humanity asked for a chance 60 years ago. You gave us that chance, eventually. And now we stand together, stronger than any of us could have been alone. He looked at the crowd. Thank you, all of you, for proving that the universe can change, that old enemies can become new friends, that hope is stronger than fear. He bowed his head. Goodbye and good luck. The applause that followed lasted for 10 full minutes. Beings who had never cried found themselves weeping. Old warriors embraced old enemies. Young children watched in wonder, knowing they were seeing history. Later that night, sat alone on a balcony overlooking the station. The stars burned cold and bright, just as they had burned 60 years ago when he first came to this place. Found him there. She sat beside him without speaking, and together they watched the universe turn. Do you think it will last? She finally asked. The peace, the cooperation. Thought about it for a long moment. Nothing lasts forever, he said. Empires rise and fall, friendships fade, even stars eventually die. He looked at her. But that is not the point. The point is that we tried. We showed the galaxy that something better was possible, and even if everything we built falls apart tomorrow, that idea will remain. He smiled. Somewhere, someday, another young species will look at the stars and dream of something greater. They will remember what we did, and they will try again. Leaned against his shoulder. That is enough for you. It is enough for anyone. Closed his eyes. We planted a seed. What grows from it is not our concern. Our job is finished. In the station behind them, the celebration continued. Species that had once been enemies danced together. Scientists shared discoveries across language barriers. Children of different worlds played games they had invented that very night. And high above them, the stars continued to burn, ancient and unchanging, watching over a galaxy that had finally learned to change. 1 week later, boarded a small ship bound for Earth. He carried only one bag and one precious crystal that glowed with soft blue light. As the ship lifted off, he looked back at the station one last time. It was not the same station he had visited 60 years ago. It was better, and it would keep getting better long after he was gone. He smiled, settled into his seat, and closed his eyes. His work was done. But the work of the galaxy was just beginning.